How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Fourever Arsenal podcast. And unfortunately, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, unfortunately, we've had to move on from Jordan. I know a lot of you in the chat and the comment section won't like it, but we've had to move on. No, I'm joking. He's only off for tonight. He's only off for tonight. Sharoy's in the building. You wanted Sharoy.
I should have kept that going a lot longer than that.
No, but you lot started looking concerned as well. I thought, shit, maybe I should have told him about the joke prior, but here we are. We are. Sharoy, welcome back, man. You good?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. I mean, for those of you who don't know Turkish, he messaged me last night and he said, listen, I've got Jordan talking about wanging off. I've got Lee talking about fake boobs. I need you to come and restore some law and order to this because I'm trying to record Fourever Arsenal. These men are turning it into 50 Shades pretty quickly. Do you know what I mean? So I said, listen, whenever you need me, man, whenever you need me.
Listen, I'm always going to bring you back because I need it every few weeks, to say the least. But yeah, Jordan's unavailable tonight. He's a busy man covering the World Cup and so on. So Jordan will be back for the next show, but we can enjoy Sharoy's presence and opinion on today's show or tonight's show, depending on when this comes. Actually, it's tomorrow afternoon. So today's show. But as always, big up James and Lee, judges as usual. And we're here to discuss the World Cup. Last 16 fixtures have been played. Results are in and the quarterfinals are set up nicely. But there is some Arsenal news to talk about first. And yeah, is probably the correct way to go about it. It's not the best of news, but Gabriel Jesus has had surgery today. It's today, right, James?
Yeah, he's had his surgery, yeah. Went well, apparently.
Went well, but still predicted to be out up to 3-4 months. At best, I assume, considering it's a knee injury. He's had surgery almost immediately upon coming back to the UK. I don't think he'll be linking up with the squad out in Dubai. He's on the healing process now. But that's probably the only place we can start because it's the biggest news. And it's damning news when you consider how much we wanted to come out of this World Cup unscathed. And one of the big hitters has, been knocked down for a good few months, a good chunk of the season, a good chunk of the year. Gabriel Jesus. Sharoy, I haven't had a chance to speak to you about it yet properly since the news has broke. But what's your thoughts around it? Jesus being one of the two, in my opinion, players that we couldn't afford an injury to at the World Cup. The other being Thomas Partey. He's home safe and sound. I think he's got a week off the back of Ghana's exit in the group stage. But Jesus, massive, massive loss.
Yeah, I mean, I would have said one of three players. I'd probably include Xhaka in that as well. But Jesus, Jesus is huge. And looking at the amount of time that he's out, I was the guy that James interviewed, Dr. Rajpal Bra. He's a great guy. He put out a tweet today. I've just pulled it up now, and he's saying that if it's I don't know what these mean, by the way. If it's a medial trim, 4 to 6 weeks, lateral trim, 6 to 8 weeks, medial repair, 12 weeks, lateral repair, 16 weeks. So if we're talking 16 weeks, I think we just have to sadly forget about the fact that Gabriel Jesus is an Arsenal player for the foreseeable future. And I've seen a lot of talk about how he wasn't necessarily scoring goals before his injury, and so we're not going to be missing goals in that area. But let's not be naive. He's a man that leads the press. He frightens defenses whenever he gets the ball, and he creates. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's not a loss. But I've been seeing a lot of title race done, top 4 race over. That's it. Had to be us. Same old Arsenal. And I'm not quite there. I'm not going that far with it. If we're a team that after 14 games says we're in with a shot of winning the title, and we said it, apparently with chest, you can't lose any one player and suddenly think you're going to drop out of the top 4 for me. And I think with Eddie, we have a guy that we know can put the ball in the back of the net, and all of the qualities that I just rattled off with Jesus. I think you can bring in a wide player if they are identifying a wide player in January who also has those qualities and will add to the team going forward in that regard.
I think you're right with the majority of what you said. The only thing that I tend to agree with the other side, and by that, I mean the comments you mentioned, is if we was in a title race, which in my opinion, it was far too early to presume we was, after 14 games, it's similar to last season when after a few games, people would banter saying we're in a relegation battle. It's far from the end. But with Jesus out, I don't believe a title race is on the horizon. But everything else, I agree with. I think, to turn around and say same old Arsenal. It's not really. I guess it's our fault for maybe not covering our backs in that department. But at the same time, when you look at the money spent and the lack of Europe last year and the positions we finished in over the years, FFP was always going to be a hindrance at some point down the line. Top 4 should still be on the cards. You know, I haven't given up defeat and I'm far from it in that sense. We're 5 points clear at the top, so we built a little cushion. But yeah, I think in terms of a title race and the question, can we win the league? I said, yes, we can prior to the World Cup. If you ask me now, without Jesus, I'd have to say, no, we can't. James, I don't know how you feel about it, but yeah, give us your thought.
Yeah, I think Shroy's spot on. And I do agree with that second point there, which is, no, I don't think we're going to have enough if we're going to lose Jesus for this period of time and not sign adequate squad depth. But, you know, I always try to be glass half full, and you should never really be thinking about positives when a player, you know, A, gets injured because of their well-being, but B, because of the footballing side of things. But okay, we got this news. We needed to add firepower anyway. I think even before Jesus' injury, we knew we needed some depth in that position, that we needed maybe a different element in that area, maybe more of a target man profile, maybe more of a natural goal scorer profile. You could even get that natural goal scorer out in wide areas. So if you address that, you bring in a couple player Smith Rowe returns, then you could be looking at 2 or 3 options in that position that we actually didn't have going into the run into the World Cup. So, you know, turn these into opportunities. He'll get his rest. He'll come back for the final, maybe 2-3 months, maybe 3 months if we're lucky, but it's looking like the final 2 months for sure. And he can lead us over the line for the title. Listen, I don't know. He can play a big part in the final bit, and that will feel like a boost, you know. But yeah, of course we're disappointed, of course, but that you can do something about it, right? We can do something about it. We have January. I haven't. Cecil has just seen Arteta and the Cronkies out for dinner. You know, I wonder what they're talking about. LA Rams game, having, you know, they're all paddy, everything's good. Cool. 50 million, please, Stan. That's what I'm going to actually make that 100 while you can. I just heard the news about the operation, please. You know, act like a big club and address it. And we needed to anyway. That's what Amy Lawrence said in her Athletic article, that they were looking at 2 players anyway in January. So cool. Let's see what they're made of.
But one wasn't a 9, right? One of those 2 players was never a down the line sort of striker. It was always a wide attacker and a midfielder, wasn't it?
That is the I think that's what they were looking at, a front 3 player. I think I'm not talking quality, I'm talking profile wise. Mane, Salah scores goals, has led the line, can play out wide. Mudryk seems to fit that, but yeah, I think that's what they're looking for.
I think in terms of January and the plan moving forward, we'll discuss that after Lee gives his thoughts. Initially, Lee, when you heard the news, well, obviously initially it was 3 weeks apparently, and then it moved on to 3 months, and now we know he's had surgery, so it could be anywhere, let's say between 2 to 4 months, and let's use the worst case scenario and be happily surprised rather than the other way and be bitterly disappointed. But what was your initial reaction to hearing it's 3 months out for Jesus?
Gutted. I've got to say that, you know, I was gutted when it was 3 weeks. I don't believe what's in, you know, like they're saying 2 months now, 3 months, could be anything now. I'm writing him off for the season. I think, like, you know, too quick the operation for me. It's definitely not. Definitely, the good thing is that it's not.
Rupture.
Yeah, rupture, because he'd have been straight. He'd have had to have a week or 2 off of it, like, you know, before it has it done. So it does seem like it's not
the worst knee injury. Yeah,
it's not an ACL or anything like that, or a rupture, because you have to have a couple of weeks off to let everything settle down before you can have that operation. So he's gone straight in, which is a good sign. Listen, I would be gutted and annoyed if he'd done it playing for Arsenal. I am wound up by the fact it's in a poxy game that didn't even matter, and he's injured, like, you know what I mean? And this is why I don't want this World Cup, and I'm thankful that Switzerland are out today. Thank God for that. Getting Xhaka home now. I don't care who wins against France and England now. If it's England get knocked out, thank God, then Saka's home straight away. If it's not, it's Saliba home straight away. Like, you know what I mean? I do not care.
I think you've hit your mic or something, Lee.
He broke the mic.
I thought it was just at my end.
He just slapped his mic out.
I smashed the mic, everything like that. I mean, like, you know, it's just got to go in for an operation. Like, but
Just pick up from I don't care, because the venom
I
was
don't
coming
care
out.
about this World Cup no more. I don't care about who stays in it or who don't. I just want my Arsenal players back home. End of. They shouldn't be here in the first place. And then to lose your star striker, who could be the potential of taking us to the title or not, getting injured in a poxy friendly, because that's what it was on that last game. No one cared whether they won or lost. They actually lost to Cameroon. No one give a shit, right? But I do. And I'm fed up with it now. Like, I'm fed up with this World Cup. Like, you know what I mean? I can't stand it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm scared when Saka. Do you know what? If Saka, I'm hoping and praying that Saka's not playing on Saturday. That's how I feel now. Like, I just hope he gets left out so that he doesn't get injured. Like, I've had enough of it. Like, you know what I mean? We cannot afford to have any more players get injured. Every other team, like, none of this. He's our star player, our main man. I know you can say about Xhaka and Partey. I'm telling you that now. They're good. They were here last year. Didn't make a difference. This kid has made a difference to us. Massive difference to us where we are now to where we were. And I'm worried about that now going in with Eddie. I'm worried about it. You know, is he as good as Jesus? What I've seen in the last 6 weeks, we ain't nowhere near in the same league as him. Let's not kid ourselves. Yeah, he can do this and he can do that. I've watched Jesus in the last 2 months. No one's near him. No one's near him. I tell you, the only player that's going to be near him is Martinelli. And that is where we've got to get Smith Rowe back in there, or we've got to sign a wide player and Martinelli comes in and does what he can do. Like, you know what I mean? But guess what? Where is he? Where is he? Get him home now, like, you know what I mean? I want Brazil out of that cup competition as quickly as possible, like, you know, so he's back. Because every time he's coming on, 4-1 yesterday, I'm doing my nuts. But 4-1, it don't matter. Oh, it's great that Martinelli's on. No, it's not. I'm not. I'm doing it. If I had hair, I wouldn't have none, because I've pulled it all out, because I don't want him there. You know what I mean? I do not want them there.
But it matters to them, Lee. It matters to them. I listen. I hear everything you're saying, right? And it's obviously the Arsenal hat on, and I get it. But Jesus would have wanted to make that World Cup appearance for Brazil, even if it didn't matter.
Of course he does. I know that, James. I know that Martinelli does and all that, like, and I know that Saka does and all that, and I'm pleased in a way that they are. But there's this. I'm not enjoying it because I just don't want to see players getting. I don't want to. James, can I be really honest with you today? Portugal versus Switzerland. I said it to Turkish today. If this was the summer game, I'm cheering on Switzerland all the way. But I can't today, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I turned around to Turkish and what's the first thing I said to you? Xhaka's on his way home, thank God. That's how I feel. I'm sorry, like, you know what I mean? International football don't mean nothing to me, because it's all about Arsenal. If you're watching cricket, I'm watching rugby, anything else like it is, but because I'm not invested in that like I am in football.
I get it. I don't have that attachment to international football. I don't feel that. I've never celebrated an England goal, or I've seen Italy win the World Cup and the Euros, and I don't think it got me off my feet quite like Arsenal winning an FA Cup. Yeah. So I do get it. You know, it really is just luck of the draw. I mean, it's just so unfortunate, isn't it? I mean, you know, especially when he hadn't been a starter. You know, if you'd been a starter for Brazil, you know, it's just you kind of come away from it going, oh, this was just let's give him an appearance and let's rotate the squad and rest the others. Probably no chance for either whatever he did in that game, he was going to take Richarlison's place, because Richarlison's a bit of a favourite, and he gets injured, and you're just thinking. And look, I will say this. We've actually been fairly fortunate on the injury front for most of the season. I think it maybe it's kind of escaped Arsenal fans' minds that Chelsea have had real injuries as well. Liverpool have had real injuries at times, but they've come back quite quickly. Spurs have had a real injury list. Man United have had their few. We've been pretty fortunate on the injury front. Okay, Zinchenko missed a month, and that felt like a lot of games because it was a lot of games. He's missed a bit, not that much really. This season, last season, we had our fair share. Don't get me wrong, but I think this season we've been fairly fortunate. I mean, Gabriel Saliba, Ramsdale, Jesus, Xhaka have been available for every single game. Martinelli, Saka as well. Even when Saka went off injured, he was fit to play the Europa League game a few days later. Partey, when he was out, I think missed 4 games, maybe 5, and he was back in. So I think largely we have been pretty fortunate on that front, especially because the injuries we've had haven't been massively long term. But this is a real hammer blow, and I don't really know if anyone in the league has had a player of that significance for that period of time. I think that's where it hurts. I don't think Liverpool haven't lost to Salah for 3 months. City haven't lost to De Bruyne or a Haaland. Tottenham haven't lost to Harry Kane. And I'm not wishing injury on anyone. It's just that's where it's like we're going to learn a lot about this Arsenal team. They've gone up so many levels on last season. Now, was that all Jesus? Was it everything coming together? Is it coaching another year with Arteta? We're going to learn a lot.
Oh, yeah, you could say fortunate, but now with this injury to Jesus, we've probably gone straight down to the most unfortunate of the lot because, like you said, if Liverpool were to get an injury to Salah, I guess they'd be talking the same about a lack of depth and options behind. City with De Bruyne, even Haaland, as much as City have got depth and they've got good players, we've lost one of our main guys. Shiroi, you've heard Lee just, express his emotions regarding it. I'm pretty much in his camp. Yes, it's nice for the players to get game time, but I don't really give a shit. It doesn't affect Arsenal. And I want them back fit and raring to go for us. And again, he's right. If it was in the summer, then it's more I can sit back, enjoy it, and really get behind them. The fact that it's in between a season that, for once, we've started so good, top of the league, leading the way, and it comes at such a time that it's not halfway through the season. We're just over a third of the way through the season. Without FA Cup action coming into play, Europa League crunch time is round the corner now. James mentioned, was it James or was it? No, it was Lee that mentioned Eddie and the drop off in quality. And I think that's the next place to take this conversation to, because whatever we think, January window is still 2 games away, and Eddie will be starting the game against West Ham. Let me just touch wood because I don't know what's going to happen in these friendlies, but we can't afford to lose Eddie now. So Eddie will be starting that West Ham game and then the Brighton game after that. But there's an argument to be had that if Eddie was injured for 3-4 months, can Jesus do it all on his own without someone coming in for him? And the answer is no. You're going to need to have another player there that can come in and out. But Shura, what's your opinions on Eddie now stepping up to the plate? He stepped up to the plate at the end of last season, albeit he stepped up to the plate when we're challenging for top 4. This is a very different circumstance, but he scored goals in crucial games, signs a new contract, bumper contract at that, and the number 14 shirt. Surely that was all for this type of moment.
Yeah, has to be. I mean, I think one thing we have learned from him is that he's not necessarily the substitute that's going to change the course of a game by coming on for 10 or 15 minutes. He said it himself. He said, look, if you give me a run of games, I will score goals. And the run of games that he got in at crunch time for our season, he did score goals. And let's not forget, he did that when Nuno Tavares was starting, because we had a bit of a fullback crisis. We had a number of injuries in the 11 that he was playing in, and he was somewhat a shining light in that. Now, if all goes well and the injury list stays as it is, Eddie Nketiah maybe slots into that Arsenal first 11 at full strength. He's the only variable in there, and I think that is the best opportunity he's ever going to get to show us what he's about, because he's got the top men around him, and he's going to have this run of games. My concern is, what the hell do you do in the cups and the Europa? I mean, what do you do in the FA Cup and in the Europa League? It can't always be Eddie. And at which point, I mean, sorry, Lee, but I might have to talk about the false 9. I know how much you hate it, but we don't really have much of an option then, do we? I mean, are we calling Balogun back? I think he's having a good loan. I don't want to stunt his development, but at this point now, is it needs must? Does he have to come back for these cup competitions? It's a difficult one. And I mean, James quite rightly said that, look, we have perhaps been fortunate in terms of long-term injuries up until now, but I'm just looking exclusively at the striker position now. If Harry Kane gets injured, fair enough, there's a bit of a quality drop-off, but they've addressed that with Richarlison. if Haaland gets injured, Alvarez is an Argentinian international who's playing at this World Cup. Even if, when Martial gets injured, they do bring in Rashford, and Rashford does have the odd goal in him, as we've seen in this World Cup. You look at Liverpool, if whoever you think their first choice is, whether it's Nunes or Firmino, one of them's injured, you've got an able replacement, where you're very, very confident. We now need to start, hopefully, thinking about, feeling about Eddie Nketiah as that capable backup, because it really is now or never for him to put all of the unrest in the Arsenal fan base to bed as to his capability. He really needs to justify that salary and that number, and I sincerely hope he does, and I'll be behind him throughout. I'm going to back this boy to my full capability now, as I think we all should.
Yeah, I mean, we have no evidence that he can perform to that level, and by that level, I mean we're top of the league. There was hopes that would be challenging for a title, and that's not me slating him. That's just he hasn't had the opportunity to prove that he's at that level. Like I said, towards the end of last season, he came into a team that's competing for top 4, maybe a 70-point team. Heading into this World Cup, we was hoping this team was more a 90-point team than a 70-point team, and headed for bigger and better things than a top 4 challenge at the end of the season come April and May. So we haven't had a chance to see, whether he can live up to the expectation, whether he can take that contract and the belief put in him and really kick on from it. But you are right, Shura, he's not going to get a better opportunity than this. I mean, he's at Arsenal, our main man, our star striker, is out for potentially 3-4 months. Lee, you mentioned Eddie already, and what you said is facts. He hasn't got the quality Jesus does, but something that I've seen from Eddie more recently is maybe molding his game around that of Jesus, and maybe adding facets to his game that improve his, overall fluidity in the side. And one thing about Eddie is, if he's left to it, he's going to be in the box. He's going to be in the box, and as long as, I guess, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Emil Smith-Rowe coming back in can continue stepping up to the plate and creating chances and getting the ball into the box, then it's primed for Eddie to succeed. But at this moment in time, after the news being so fresh, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine us without Jesus and without what he brings in terms of dropping deep and helping link up play. Eddie's a very different striker. Do you think that could work in our favor, considering not goals was a problem for us prior to the World Cup because we're one of the highest scoring teams in the league, but having that body in the box, that threat?
Listen, I don't think that we're going to have a drop off as far as goals are concerned. I think Eddie will in the next 10 games get 5 goals. I think that the goals thing isn't the problem. What the problem for me is, it's 0-0 against Wolves. Yeah. And you're trying to break them down. That little bit of magic from Jesus with that pass, Eddie hasn't got that. Eddie's hasn't got that little skill factor that can open up teams, go around a couple of players. And I'm going to be really honest about it. He's not going to frighten the life out of people. Speaking to some Spurs mates and all that, what I mean, they're laughing hey, Jesus is out now. Now you've got Eddie coming to White Hart Lane in January the 14th or whenever it is, 15th, right? They were frightened of Jesus coming to there, frightened, because it's not just his goals, it's what he brings, his pace, his little running, his energy, and everything like that. Now, it might well work out in our favour, that we've got other players that can do that little bit of magic and things like that. I fear that we haven't. I fear that we haven't got that players. I think if you ever look at Arsenal over the last few games, particularly the Wolves game that I noticed, defending very, very deep. The pace, you haven't got the pace to get. Eddie's got the pace, but if he's got the pace, he's running only into 5 yards. He can't. It's trickery. It's a little bit of magic that's going to break your team down. You're now relying on Saka, who's over in Qatar at the moment. You're going to rely on Martinelli to do that, who's going to be out there. Now, these guys, if it goes as what we think it might do, they ain't coming back. They're not coming back to a week before the season starts again at West Ham. Chucking them back in. Say if Brazil win it, right? He's got to go all the way back to Brazil, all celebrating and that, then come back and then be ready for West Ham. Ain't going to happen. So then you got another one out. So it's either going to be, so if Brazil get to the final, you can forget about Martinelli, particularly in the game against. I can forget about Martinelli for those 2 games, and then if it's the other way around, it's England. You can forget about Saka. So then you've also got 2 players like you've got Saka. Say if England win it, Saka and Jesus out. Going to be difficult, boys. You know what I mean? Like I think these 2 games in the friendlies. I'm hoping to see Smith Rowe there to give me a little bit of a confidence boost, because I tell you what, he's a quality player, and at some stage in the season was going to help us out anyway. He might have to come to the front straight away. He's capable of doing it, but as we know, he's also capable of nicking a goal from out of nowhere. So I think he's going to be key. But I'm hearing, all right, we're going to make we've got to make a couple of transfers, and then I'm hearing fair play. We ain't going to be able to make that many. You know what I mean? So, and I'm at this stage and that, like, and if I was Cecil, I'd say, look, have a word with him, those cronkies out there, and go to them. Don't worry about it. We take the fine like Manchester City have done in the past and whatever. Like, get these boys over the line now. We've got an opportunity to win this league. I watched De Bruyne, maybe he's on the wane. We don't know. You know what I mean? Like it was poor in this World Cup, so he's going to come back I don't think in a good position head wise. We could have really nailed it on a little bit more this time around. Just so, you know what I mean? Like, that West Ham game. I'm not going to enjoy my Christmas dinner on Christmas Day because I'm going to be worried about this game now.
Sure, I don't know if you've seen the recent episodes, but don't worry about putting your hand up. Jordan will just talk over someone and cut in.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'm not trying to get the same heat, man. That's why I'm being polite. It's all good.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to touch on the financial fair play thing, because I was reading today. It's now not going to be called financial fair play. It's going to be called something else, financial sustainability or something. And what I've seen is that it says clubs will now be assessed on wages as a percentage of revenue. So the wages that you're putting out for the players that you bring in as a percentage of your top line, your revenue, right? Not your profits, because we know that we recorded a loss this year. Now, Arsenal's revenue, the amount of money the club brings in, is pretty good. So I don't think financial fair play or financial sustainability or whatever you want to call it should be precluding us from making these signings, unless I'm missing something here. I'm sure people in the comments will let me know. I think we should be okay.
Well, I've also just stopped taking all that seriously, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And laugh at me when ultimately we get a ban and we can't sign anyone and we're trusting the process with no incomings. But largely, I've just not. I just want to add something, guys. I've got to believe, and I've said this before, I've got to believe Arteta's plan for this. I've got to believe that they had an idea that, if they lose a player, they're short. They were short anyway. I remember the Arteta quotes going into deadline day. We know we're short. We know that we need more, blah, blah, blah. And, even the Athletics sort of just quite bluntly saying Arsenal wanted 2 players in January. It's business that they wanted to do in the summer that has carried over into January. This isn't what we heard last year, which was they weren't expecting top 4. So they're thinking of bringing some business forward. This is there's unfinished business. I've got to believe they've planned for this. Like, I can't imagine they've seen Smith Rowe just have his surgery and his injury issues. Really young players and Martinelli and Saka being depended on massively. Jesus as the only kind of, let's say, trusted number 9. But again, I believe he does trust Eddie Nketiah. Yeah, and then when you kind of look back at it, we kind of all lost our heads about the January stuff and Aubameyang leaving. We all said, well, you're leaving us with nothing. But the reality is that was by our standards. In reality, we did still have Lacazette, Nketiah, Balogun. Oh no, Balogun went on loan. Martinelli could play up front. Like, he could still point to 3 solutions. They just wouldn't have been ones that we were particularly happy with. This year, it is different. It's actually, there's no one. Like, it's Eddie and no one else, because Martinelli's so key to what he does on the left now. Remember last season was him and Smith Rowe alternating. Now it's Eddie and no one else. Balogun's on loan. That's it. There's no
last year. Sorry, carry on.
By plans for this, what would you hope has been the plan?
That they recognised they needed depth in the forward line and in midfield, and that the return of Smith Rowe, a new signing, and a new forward signing, a new midfield signing, would basically be like having 4 extra players in that Smith Rowe can play in midfield and in the front line. and then you add a forward, you add your new midfielder. Okay, Jesus is out. I mean, I would imagine they'd have planned for, adding depth.
So it seemed that the plan, or part of the plan maybe, is Mudryk. The amount of time he's mentioned us recently and the hints that he's been given. I want to stick on you, James, for a second.
Mm.
Do you think that plan should change, will change, considering if Mudryk was to come in, great piece of business. He looks like a great young player.
Sure.
Does it fix the issue that Jesus being injured for 3-4 months causes?
Okay. It really depends how good he is. Because Mbappe at 21, no one would have said, no, thanks, you're a bit young. We've got enough young players, So if he's another generational talent, then yeah, you do it, because that's clearly the guy we're linked with. That really seems to be the guy they want. If it's, we quite like him, but actually we thought he'd be playing kind of more second fiddle to Saka and Martinelli, giving them a chance to get a rest, whatever. And you had, I'm not saying Depay, but you had a Depay profile that you were also looking at heavily, that you thought, you know what, though, I think we just need to lean to experience and someone who can maybe play starting up front week in, week out in the Premier League. Then I think you probably lean towards that option. But I don't get the impression that's what it is in Mudryk. I think the way everything's just been fueled, I think they want this guy like badly. And if that is the case, then go do it, because listen, youth hasn't stopped Arteta doing kind of ultimately what he wants to do with the players.
Sure, you was about to say something earlier. It's still relevant to the conversation.
Yeah, just talking about what James was saying and how the plan and how Arsenal probably should have legislated for this. I mean, if we're looking at last January, the reason that we all sort of lost our shit was because we sought an opportunity to get top 4. Now, and the reason why I think the board didn't really go hell for leather is because that season for them was, no, we're going to get top 6. Next season will be top 4. So that season has arrived. And at the start of the season, we would have been happy with top 4, but now we think we can win the league. So are they going to have the same attitude that they had last year and say, well, actually top 4 was the aim? At which point I think everyone on this pod would agree that we probably still have enough to get top 4 given the position that we're in the league, right? I don't think anyone's sitting here saying we're going to drop out of the top 4 because of one injury, are they? Everyone thinks we're probably still shooting for top 4 based on where we are in the table.
I don't think we're dropping out the top 4, but I understand people who are far more fearful of that because it's not as late in the season as people think it is.
Yeah,
We've made such
not
an
where we would
amazing
usually
start.
be at this time of year. Yeah,
it's not match day 24; it's 14. And I just think, I think that's what it is. If we'd crossed the 20 game mark, I'd say, okay, that's still only just over halfway, but we're still 6 games, which is 18 points off that. It just feels it's a bit too soon for me to go, everything is nailed. If you asked me that question today and Jesus weren't injured, I'd be sitting here saying, yeah, the way we're playing, and is everyone else going to be consistent enough and all that? But Arsenal did lose a few players last year and lost 3 games on the bounce. And there's a lot of opportunities. And I'm not trying to spread pessimism or anything. I just think we've got to be realistic. Nothing is signed, sealed, delivered yet. I'm confident we'll get top 4, but I do understand the fears. I do understand people going, ooh,
The World Cup's not over yet.
Oh, thanks, Lee.
Well, it's not only applicable to us, that's for other teams as well, right?
Yeah. Every time they go out there, there's a chance, isn't there? There's a chance.
Yeah.
So there's a worry, So at this moment in time, I would still back us for top 4 with Eddie up front. I don't think that we can, with Eddie up front on his own, I don't think we can challenge for the FA Cup and Europa League as well. So we're going to have to forsake one of them or both if we're going to go for the top 4. That disappoints me because I want a trophy at the end of this season. So it comes down to what happens in the transfer market. Look, I'm all doom and gloom about it, but this could have happened in February. Then we're in trouble, like, you know what I mean? We didn't get nothing done, and Jesus gets injured and whatever. Like, hopefully the club have learnt their lessons from last year, realising that they left themselves short last season, and the gamble don't work. Do you know why? Because it's never going to work with all the games that you got. We need to bring in at least 3 players now to strengthen the squad. I think James is dead right when he says Smith Rowe comes in. He hasn't contributed at all this season, so he's like a new signing. A little bit like Saliba, like, even though he was at our club, he's been a massive influence on us now. So I think that we got to do that. I would be, Mudryk is someone I think is a gamble. I think maybe look at someone like Zaha now that you could perhaps be looking at that's Premiership proven. Someone like that, go down that route. I still think strengthening midfield, I think that's a priority as well, forgetting about Jesus. So I think that we need to do that. And I'm pretty sure that in America, the guys over there have spoke about what's going to happen. And the thing that they know that we don't know is that they know how long Jesus is going to be out. They know. So are they going to go ahead and make a move for somebody, or are they going to say that it could be only 4, 5, 6 weeks, and they could turn around and go, do you know what, 4 or 5, 6 weeks, we can deal with that.
I think they would have said, if it was 4, 5 or 6 weeks, I think they would have said, because now
they
haven't said, if they're going to dip into the market, everyone's going to be sat there saying, your striker's out for ages. How much you got? That's the problem.
That's that. Yeah, so they're playing the cards close to their chest. I get that. But with that comes a little bit of in doubt whether it is or not. Like, I think that, listen, the Mudryk one, for instance, like, I mean, they play in the Ukraine. You know what I mean? I'm not being horrible. They've got to be desperate for some months, for some cash there. Like, you know what I mean? So they're not going to be holding us to ransom. I think like a fair deal will be enough to push that through. And I think that, when you've got players that are out of contract at the end of the season, i.e. Zaha, i.e. Tielemans, be what's the word, like, realistic and put in offers that are going to make them decide that they want to come.
Turkish, I just wanted to ask you actually something. The whole January thing, right? And we often allude to it as, well, we didn't do that deal because we got Jesus, and we didn't do the deal that we weren't 100% sure of, so we could do the deal that we were 100% sure of, and it all worked out. Cool. Except the job, isn't or wasn't done in the summer. Okay, so however you want to address it, both in one window, one in one window, then the other in another, we still needed a lot of strikers, a lot of firepower. We needed a lot of investment in the forward line. Actually, an area of the pitch Arteta hasn't invested in that much. He inherited Saka and Martinelli and Smith Rowe and Nelson
and Saliba.
And
Saliba, sorry, but
Jesus is the only striker he's ever signed, I believe. Willian on a free, and Odegaard. They're the only players kind of in that final third you talk about that he's actually signed. Okay, Vieira now, but so he's not really invested that heavily in that area of the pitch, and you just wonder. You could have brought in a striker who is long-term your backup or is a forward who plays in multiple areas while still going for Jesus in the summer. I think the point is that it's the same problem resurfacing itself. And we've had this for a while, really. This has been a good 2 years, maybe.
Yeah, and you know me, if there's ever an opportunity to tear down the Kroenkes, I'm gonna take it. And this ain't even me making an excuse for them, but the reality is, if we are going by FFP or financial, whatever Sharoy said earlier that is called now, considering where we've been the last 3 years, the lack of money coming in for the players going out, and the money we've spent on players coming in over the last 2 summer transfer windows, realistically, I can't turn around and have expected more from the current situation now. Something that I will say about them is Manchester City's owners manage to manipulate the market. They do things to get extra money in, and they get away with it. It's well documented. There's some of their sponsors are a PO box type of company that don't have a particular owner and so on. Now, on one hand, you can complain, and I understand that. On another hand, you can take initiative and learn off them and do what they're doing. So as much as, the club seems to still be running in the right way, spending what we can and what we make and so on, and keeping within our limits, I honestly think that more could have been done to unleash some more funds over the last 2 years. But it is what it is. COVID, we spent money and so on. Now, I'm looking at it, and the only way I can justify them leaving us short in that department is if they're going to go big in that department somewhere down the line. Now, in January, there's 2 strikers that I believe could be available if we do some shrewd business. And they're 2, because listen, Mudryk, I want him. Great talent. Tillemans, 5 months left. If we can get a good deal, I'll take him. Good squad depth rotation option. Zaha, 5 months left. I'd prefer Mudryk, but okay, more depth, cool. But then none of them are strikers. I look at them and see more creativity than I do goal scoring and being the final man in the final phase of play. I'm looking at Felix at Atletico Madrid, and I'm looking at Vlahovic at Juventus and Juventus's current situation. And I'm saying in January, this club could potentially take one of those without spending a penny and promising money later down the line. Tottenham bought in Kulusevski without spending much on him because the fee comes. I think next summer is when the fee comes into play.
Year and a half loan, I think. Yeah,
year and a half loan with an obligation to buy. I believe it's an obligation, not so much an option. That's something we need to start doing as well. And I think Atletico are willing to hear a conversation about Felix, and I'm sure Juventus, if the rumors are to be believed, would be willing to talk about Vlahovic. Now, if this club is on the right path, if we are, if the process is going bang, and Edu, Arteta both mentioned title challenges this season, Zinchenko, Martinelli have both mentioned to raise the standards this season, then that comes through the club as well. And they need to act in January. And there is attainable targets in January, in my opinion. And one thing I can't forgive them for is the lack of effort and trying over the years. So it's about time they change their ways and actually try and be shrewd in the window. Because at the end of the day, Kulusevski coming to Tottenham for nothing last January, and he got them the bag. And by the bag, I mean he got them Champions League football. Tottenham are not a successful footballing side. They're not used to trophies. I'm not saying we have been over the last 15 years because, yeah, we've won a few FA Cups in between, but it's nothing compared to the years prior to that. But look at where we are in the league. Last year, when we went for Vlahovic, it was easy for him. Well, I say if we went for Vlahovic, if that is true, it was easy for him to look at us and dismiss that option. As much as people were aggravated by Juventus and what, listen, Arsenal were in a messy place even last season. If Felix hears from his agent now or Vlahovic hears, listen, Arsenal are interested, and they look online or they look on their phone, they're top of the league. Or they're second, a couple points off top of the league. It's a far greater look outside in than it ever has been in the last 10 years. So let's use that now. It's not... I never really thought we could win the league this year with what we had because of a situation like this. But let's use the 14 games that we've played and how well we've played and where we've put ourselves as clout in a sense.
Well, Liverpool hadn't won anything when Fabinho, Van Dijk, Alisson signed, and they were looked at by all big clubs in Europe. Fabinho was chased by United for sure, probably City, I think. I can't remember. Van Dijk, we know, was close to City. And they did it. And they did it because those players... players are smarter than people give them credit for. They see what's going on. They talk. They know what's going on. They know what's a good environment to play in, develop in. Which clubs are going in what directions. You heard Raheem Sterling, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, talking about the direction Arsenal were going in and stuff like that. And I think you're right, Turkish. I think this is such a good opportunity to say, do you want to be part of really do you want to be the catalyst? She'll be the one that just takes it up another level. And you wonder whether in negotiation, the Jesus injury does a favor to those who are, not sure if they're going to be starting or what part am I going to play. Yeah, but, how am I getting into that front three? Maybe there's a little bit more of a, well, you got 2-3 months to lead it. I don't know. I mean, you got to turn these negatives into positives somehow. And I think you're right. I think there's an opportunity there and they need to try and grab it.
Grab it with both hands. I mean, like I said, we haven't been in this good a position going into a January window for a hell of a long time. And it's a different look being in January 1st, 2nd to come May, finishing potentially 3rd after such a great start to the season. The outlook is a bit different. Oh, they fell off again. Oh, same old Arsenal in a sense. Oh, they wasn't quite ready. Now is the time to really try and, get something done. La Liga teams are in trouble. Atletico, if they're willing, talk. Juventus in trouble. If they're willing, talk. Let's start doing these shrewd moves that other clubs have done over the years and improve our side. Sharoi, I haven't heard from you in a little while, but Felix, Vlahovic, do you think they are legitimate? Am I dreaming? Because they are high-profile players.
Vlahovic, I think, will be difficult just because, Granit Xhaka grabbed his crotch at the entire Serbian bench and it all went off. I mean, that hate runs deep. I don't know about Vlahovic or Mitrovic or any of those.
I forgot about that, actually. I forgot about that.
As soon as I saw that, and I know the history behind the countries and how deep that can get.
Yeah.
I just don't think after that Vlahovic will come, if I'm being honest, because of how senior Xhaka is in our hierarchy. João Felix, on the other hand, the noises that everyone seems to be hearing about and reading about are that he actually wants to move too, and that Atletico would be willing to listen. But again, using what James was talking about with the Liverpool analogy and about Alisson and Van Dijk or whatever, those transfers were big money transfers.
Yeah,
I'm talking smashing Arsenal's record fees. If you're talking about bringing someone like João Felix in and doing that in January, on one hand, there'll be a lot of people saying, yeah, Arsenal aren't going to do that. Arsenal won't do that in January. But Turkish, I'm with you, man. I mean, there has to come a point where Arsenal will do that. If we are actually going to kick on, we're talking about clubs spending that kind of money, the best part of half a decade ago now. And the market's changed. If we're going to kick on, the time has to be now. And I think selling the project, look, bro, we got Gabriel Jesus without Champions League football. That's not an easy signing to pull off. That was selling a project, saying you're going to be the main man. We did the same with Zinchenko. Hopefully we can do the same with players like Saliba and so forth and lock them in. We're doing that now. It's just about, can we do it one or two more times? And then we have a slightly more complete squad.
Yeah, I mean, you are right. The issues between Xhaka and not just Vlahovic, but the Serbian team, it runs deep and it's part of history. And I doubt after incidents like that, it would make for a peaceful squad harmony if he was to come in. But if I look at Felix, yeah, he signed for 100 million. I think I mentioned this to James before. That doesn't mean he's worth 140 on his next move. He was much more highly sought after going into Atletico than, in my opinion, he is coming out of Atletico. And I just can't get my head around. I honestly think if we went to Atletico and said, here's 20 million in January, and we'll give you another 55 million in the summer or in the summer of 2024, I don't think they'd turn that away, if I'm honest with you, because listen, the clubs with money are the clubs in England in this day and age. So how many English clubs would be after him? Maybe you might argue Man United now, they have a problem up front. Not so much City, definitely not Liverpool, considering how much they spent on Núñez. Chelsea, well, they buy every Tom, Dick and Harry, so maybe their club would be interested. Tottenham must be having a laugh. Lee, you've been quiet, man, and I know how you're feeling.
I feel I'm listening to it with intrigue, really, I think maybe Tammy Abrahams at Roma could be something that they could look at doing, someone like that. I think what they've got to do, I honestly think they had no intentions of buying a striker, no intentions. It may be next season they might have done that, so they might have to bring it forward, whoever it be. But it's going to take a little bit of money now, and that's how I feel. I just think that it's a big kick in the teeth for us all, what's happened over this last few days. We just got to see what happens in January. I think, if we'd signed a midfield player and nothing else, I think we'd have gone, yeah, okay, that's all right, but now we know that they've got to sign somebody in that front running. Because it's all right saying Jesus, I'll come back after 2 months and all that, but I know it's different with me. I'm just coming back from a knee injury. It's in your head as well,
Yeah.
You got the operation. It might, it might take him another month after that to hit the ground running again. He's not going to come back and be the Jesus he was straight away. I don't think so. So I think that we've got to be, you don't want to be rushing knee injuries. You know,
No.
you got to take your time with them and do all that rehab stuff. And look, listen, I know they're professionals and they will do it and all that, but it's not just all right. Yeah, he'll be back in 2 months and he'll be firing like he was. So I'm worried about that. So it may be that we need to get somebody in. That's a great point that if you're looking, I don't know who we're looking at, but someone's thinking, well, I'm a little bit hesitant. I'm not going to get to, and what game time I'm going to get. You're going to get game time now, whoever comes into that front. Even like if it's a Mudryk or a Zaha, they're going to come in and get game time, you know, and I think that's vital, like, you know, so. Listen, it's not all doom and gloom, you know what I mean? Like, Eddie's got a chance now also to really nail it in, like, you know, we're all saying is something that, you know, you know, and look, listen, I'm not saying he's celebrating Jesus being injured, but I'm pretty sure he's in Dubai going, right, this is my chance now. This is my turn to really do it, like, you know. And, you know, I see someone the other day said we didn't give him the number 14 shirt and a £100,000 a week contract to just be sitting on the bench. You know, there were times when they thought, right, this is where you got to step up and all that, like Chelsea away last season, you know, he did. So I think it's important that he's got all those players around him now. And listen, this is a big month, 2 month for Eddie now as well, because he's going to have all the players around him. There's no more excuses for him now, like, you know what I mean? He has got to come in and deliver. And, you know, he could actually be the difference between us getting to where we want to go and not being there. And it's, you know, listen, when you sign big contracts and you take the number 14, you have to have that bit of pressure on your back as well, like, you know. So I feel he'd be all right in that, like, you know. But we need to get in someone like a wide player. I'm confident. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always a little bit confident with Edu and Arteta and the board now. I've got, you know, they've not let me down over the last couple of seasons. I don't think, like, you know. When I was talking. And I was just saying, when I was talking to Edu in the summer, like, you know, when we was having a chat, you know, he was saying that, you know, be surprised this season. You know, we're going to be a really good team, and he's been true to his word. So I think that they will be this time as well.
It went from be excited to be surprised.
That's exactly what I thought.
Be surprised. We're actually going to be quite good.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. Did you think Arsenal were going to be as good as they were?
Absolutely not.
No, well, listen, we was in America and we seen, we was excited, weren't we?
I thought we'd be good. I thought we'd be a good side.
We thought we did. We all sat there afterwards and said, I know it's only friendly. We destroyed Chelsea and we said, we know it's only friendly, but look what's that. Look where Chelsea have gone and where we've gone. We was pleasantly surprised in America how good Arsenal were. I didn't think they'd be this good, but I did think that we was going to surprise a few people along the way, which we have done, you know. So, you know, we have been the best team in the league so far this season. I don't care what anybody says, you know. So, and I agree with Sharoy. Like one player doesn't make a team. You know, it helps. We've got to, you know, we've got to override it. And listen, by the time December comes, I probably won't be so raw as I am at this moment in time. Like, you know, when I heard the news of 3 months, I couldn't get to sleep that night. You know what I mean? I was fuming, like, you know. So give me a couple of weeks and it'll probably die down, you know. And then when we beat West Ham 5-0, I'll be even more happier.
There are some wonderful narratives here, you know. Eddie stepping up to it, wearing the 14. Kroenke, the redemption arc, delivering in the window. You know, come on. It's the stuff of dreams, guys.
Hey, mate, I don't know. Stuff of dreams.
It's going to be one of them. It's going to be...
I hope so.
30 league goals for Eddie or £100 million, you know, cash drop in January.
I'm going to remind you of that come May, James.
Yeah. So, James, we finished 5th back-to-back years. How do you reflect on the season? Pretty good.
Not the stuff of dreams, to say the least. But listen, we are 55 minutes in. Time has actually flown because it's the first time I checked the clock and it's nearly an hour. And we haven't discussed Lyon, upcoming friendly. There's not much to discuss. We've already mentioned it'd be good to see Emile Smith-Rowe in there if he is readily available. Other than that, we'll review the game afterwards. We are doing a watch along here on AFTV, so make sure you guys check that out this Thursday. and a special watch along, a different sort of watch along. James has been the mastermind behind a new approach to our watch alongs, and hopefully you guys and girls out there enjoy it. Let us know.
Well,
in the
what's that
comments
then?
when you do
Is it
see
a surprise?
No, just more
It's all-
seamless.
it's
You'll see
all-
on the day. It's hard to explain.
It's all virtual reality, Lee. It's like we're in the stands. The ball, it looks, you think it might hit you in the face. It's incredible. You wouldn't believe what we got. What's he doing? There we
He's
go.
off. I could see him reaching for
Honestly,
the
it's like you're
button.
there.
He's had enough.
My God,
honestly.
my God, no, you know.
Nah, it should be interesting. It should. I think it'll work well if I'm honest with you. But we'll see. We'll see. World Cup. Just to round up the last 16, Netherlands beat USA 3-1. Argentina beat Australia 2-1. Croatia beat Japan on penalties after a 1-1 draw. Brazil 4, South Korea 1. England disposed of Senegal 3-0 with Starboy Saka getting another goal. That's 3 goals for him this World Cup. France 3, Poland 1. Mbappe, star of the show. Morocco got through after a 0-0 draw on penalties. Massive, massive moment for them. Massive moment for the country, for the Moroccan people too. And Africa in general, in my opinion. Portugal 6, Switzerland 1, rounded off the last 16. The quarterfinals are on the horizon. Netherlands, Argentina. Who's going through, Shuray?
I'd have to back Argentina in this one. I've spoken to a few people who are giving Netherlands, putting Netherlands down as their favourites, but I really do think that this is the year that Messi takes this team into the real latter stages of this tournament.
Lee, I'm going to ask you the same thing. I'm not going to ask you what you think about the World Cup because I know already, but Netherlands, Argentina.
I think that Argentina get their revenge from 98.
Yeah. James?
Argentina.
Yeah, full
Messi's
house.
turned up.
Full house
It's
again.
The stuff of dreams. Add that to the Eddie and Kroenke narrative. This is just a perfect year.
Don't put Messi with that. Listen, don't me not even start. If Messi's family watch this show, they won't be watching it after what you just said there. That's for sure. Croatia versus Brazil.
I lost the Messi family. God.
We was on the right path, mate. Right, Croatia, Brazil. Is it Brazil or around here? I'm not going to go around.
Correct. Yeah.
Brazil or around. England, France. This is one that is up in the air. Sharai, who are you going for?
Want England, sadly think France. Mbappe's too hot. That team's too hot. I just can't see England not being able to concede like 3.
Yeah. Lee?
Yeah, same. I think that we give them a good go, but whoever wins this goes to the final. But I think that France have just got too much for us.
James?
And who do you want to win, Lee?
A draw.
Points.
I got a French,
Take a point.
I got a French granddad, but like no.
You want England to win. You should want Saka to play.
With my Arsenal hat on, I want France to win because like Saliba's got less chance of getting injured, but patriotic and everything there. I suppose I want England to win.
James?
I suppose.
By default,
yeah,
I'll take him. France, I think, will nick it.
Full house again. I'm going France. Last but not least, Morocco versus Portugal. Sharai.
This is where the fairy tale ends. I mean, I'd love nothing more than Morocco to go through, but I'm going Portugal for this one, especially after that, bringing on Liao off the bench to score a goal like that. I mean, disgusting talent they've got just sitting on the bench. Incredible.
Yeah. I think they're going to be. I think they're the dark horses for this now. I really do. I think that they're set up to win it. Got a very, very good chance of winning it. I think that they're also how can I say, like, for the France, I think France, Portugal, or France, England, it could be a difficult one, but I'm Portugal, I think.
So if everything goes well, I'm not even going to ask James because I'm assuming Portugal. I'm Portugal as well. Full house all round, James? Yep, nodding. So
I can't believe how disrespected Ronaldo that was, though. Not starting on the bench. Outrageous.
No, I've said that. I think that was playing today. I think, I think they thought it was going to be a lot tighter than that, and they was trying to get him. It's more important that Ronaldo's playing at the end of the game than at the beginning of the game.
No, they dropped him because he's not playing well. The guy came in and scored a hat-trick.
Yeah, I know that, but I'd still like to, like going to penalties or get last half hour when everybody's tired. They're probably better playing Ronaldo then because he's 37 years of age. He's playing against fresh players. Play him when everybody's a little bit tired. And I think you get the best out of him. So
we all agree with that, except for one person.
Him.
Well, yeah, I don't think
Cristiano.
exactly about it, but that he's 37 years of age. He's bloody doing well to be in the bloody tournament, like, you know what I mean? And people go out about Messi and all that. Like, Messi's 2 years younger, like, you know what I mean? 35, 37, there's a difference.
Imagine a Portugal-Argentina final and Ronaldo starts on the bench. He would be fuming. But we'll see. Judging by our predictions, it's looking like a Portugal-France semi-final and a Brazil-Argentina semi-final. We'll discuss it once the quarterfinals are over. We'll be back after the Lyon fixture as well. Shiroi, thank you for filling in as always, my guy. I'm sure it won't be the last time this season.
No, certainly hope not, man. But please do not forget about the comments of the week. Are we getting to those?
Listen, this is why you're here. Jordan would
Come
never
on,
remind me, man. Jordan would never remind
because I'm a fan of the show. I wait for them. That's why I'm waiting for yours now.
Let's start. Let me start this one because I haven't started one yet. Have you? Did you pick out a comment of the week, Shiroi, or not?
Oh, don't be silly. I come prepared when you ask me to do these
shit.
shows.
Say no more. The one I picked out is from Daniel, and he said, "I don't know which one is worse: the Aaron Ramsey goal death curse or the Jordan prediction kiss of death." It's a tough one. It's a tough one, Daniel. But yeah, that's the one I picked out.
Mine's on that topic. Hearing this after USA lost in the round of 16, why did Jordan have to predict the US to go through? I mean, it's the same. He's just, you know what, Lee? The moment of the season so far was realizing why Uruguay were doing so badly. You know, dark horses. I think they could go far. You know,
I will say that. You know, when he chooses things. Right, you know, that's when you've got to worry. But he was given, you know, through pot luck, France and England, like, you know what I mean. And both of his teams are still in there, like, you know what I mean. If he'd have had to choose, he would be. Both teams would be out now. Uruguay and Germany would have probably chose. You know what I mean? So there you go, like, you know what I mean. So my comment of the week, Gareth Payne. I agree with Lee. Real boobs, like a FA Cup third round clash against a lower team. The inconsistent bounce causes surprises. Great show, guys. Missing the Arsenal, but keeping me going. Oh, what a comment! What a comment!
Hashtag be surprised. That's the new Fourever Arsenal slogan.
Be surprised.
I would say be surprised.
You never know what's coming.
Go on, Shiroi, as the guest, round us off on this one.
You know what, staying on a similar theme to Lee's one, this is just a comment that I never thought I'd have to read on any AFTV podcast. It's from user ZL7MS7JZ4N, and it literally just says, "Amen to the real titty dem." And I thought that was profound. Ladies and gentlemen, good night.
Good night indeed, and love for the love, people. Hit the like button on your way out. I was going to say if you enjoyed the show, but the majority has been about the Gabriel Jesus bad injury news. But listen, it's ended with all smiles, people. As always, we enjoy the show. I hope you guys are still enjoying the show. We'll be back after the Lyon game and after the quarterfinals are complete. So sometime this weekend, I'm thinking probably Sunday, you'll see the next Fourever Arsenal podcast. Jordan should be back for that. If he's not, then I'm sure Shiroi will be ready to step in. Shiroi, love for the love, my guy. Lee, James, love as always. People, hit the like button, show the love out there, and leave us your comments as usual. Please keep them respectful. Please keep them as clean as you can. And you're in with a chance of getting it read out next week or next show, which is later on this week. But yeah, I forget we do 2 a week, people. Listen, I'm tired. It's been a long day. Watch alongs, lives, FIFA.
Made a tit of that, didn't you?
Something like that, mate. Lucky I'm not wanging off, but here we are. Here we are. Love for the love, people. Thank you. And good